$4.2 million over 3 years of carding. Does that sound impressive? It's actually pennies compared to what my former colleagues were making. I stole more money in 4 years than most people make in a lifetime. And nobody's ever caught me. All that matters in our business is results and reputation. And yes, I'm done. I've saved enough to live the rest of my life in peace. But I'm sick of films about cool hackers and black hoodies who become millionaires overnight. I'll show you how it really works. I'll start at the beginning. December 2019. I'm 19, studying at the second year of the local technical school, specializing in programming. I live with my mother in a Khrushchevka apartment on the outskirts of the city. My father is gone. He left when I was 7. My mother works as a cleaner in a shopping center for $30,000 a month. The problem started when my mother was diagnosed with a cyst in her kidney. The operation was paid for, 380,000 rubles plus rehabilitation, medication. In general, money that we never had and never could have. I knew how to program, self-taught since I was 14 years old. Python, JavaScript, a little C++. I freelanced on small things, landings for local businesses, simple Telegram bots. At most, I was able to make $40,000 a month. I had to save up for the operation for 2 years. The 21st of December, 2019, Sunday. I remember the date exactly because on this day I received a message in Telegram from an unfamiliar user at easy_money_tg. Saw your work with bots. Got some interesting work to do. You can earn more in an hour than you would in a month of freelancing. At first I thought it was a scam, but a user sent me a link to his channel. 2,000 subscribers, regular posts about testing payment systems and checking the security of online shops. Nothing criminal at first glance. In the comments, people bragged about their earnings. Yesterday, 40K. This month, already 200 plus. I wrote to him in a private message. He replied quickly, "We are testing foreign sites for vulnerabilities in the payment system. We buy goods on test cards, check if the payment has been made. You only need to write a script to automate purchases." It sounded almost legal. The key word being almost. But the $380,000 for the surgery outweighed the doubt. The first task arrived on the 23rd of December, a text file with 50 card numbers, CVV codes, and expiry dates. Check on the website of any European online shop. I'll give you 20 quid for each working card. I created a simple script in Python using Selenium. I automatically went to the site of a German electronics shop, added a cheap item worth 10 euros to the basket, reached the payment page and entered the card details. If the payment went through, the card was alive. If it was rejected, dead. Out of 50 cards, 23 of them worked. 460 quid into my cryptocurrency wallet. I earned more in 2 hours of work than I did in a month of freelancing. That's when I realized that it wasn't the test cards that I was testing. But I couldn't stop. A week later, another assignment came. Then another. By February 2020, I was already earning $2,000, $3,000 a month, just checking maps and sometimes refining scripts for other channel members. In March, a man with a nickname I won't mention wrote to me. Let's just call him Curator. He suggested that I move to a more serious level. "You are working well. There is an offer to join our group. The income will be different." I had already saved up for my mother's operation, but the excitement and money were dragging me down. I said yes, and that's when the real story began. The first assignment from the new group seemed like child's play. It only seemed child's play for the first 5 minutes. On the 7th of April 2020, the curator sent me an encrypted archive with a password. Inside was not a text file with maps, but a whole folder of materials. Dumps of databases of 3 German banks, scripts for bypassing 3D Secure, instructions for setting up VPN chains, and a list of 2,000 cards, with balances from 5 to 50,000 euros. "Welcome to Real Carding," the curator wrote. "Your task is to automate purchases from the top 10 European online shops. Orders to drop addresses in Berlin, Frankfurt, and Munich. Percentage on turnover is 15. I realized I was in a completely different league. This was not artisanal card checking, but industrial carding. The group consisted of 4 people. The curator coordinated operations and supplied the map databases. The technician was in charge of hacking sites and bypassing defenses. The logistician managed a network of dropshippers across Europe, and I became the fourth, the programmer who automates the whole process. Spent the first week studying the materials. I realized that my previous scripts were kindergarten. Here I had to imitate the behavior of a real user. Random pauses between actions, different user-agent browsers, rotation of IP addresses via VPN, even imitation of mouse movements. Launched the first test on the 14th of April. Swiss online electronics shop. I ordered an iPhone 11 Pro in the amount of 1,200 euros. The card went through, the order was confirmed. 3 days later, a technician from Zurich received the parcel and resold the phone. My share, 180 euros. By May 2020, I was processing up to 50 orders a day. My script worked around the clock, buying goods from German, French, Swiss shops, technology, clothes, cosmetics, anything as long as it was easy to resell. That's when I learned about the real geography of transactions. The cards were bought mainly in the US and Canada, where banks are slower to react to suspicious transactions. Drops worked all over Europe. Students in Berlin, immigrants in Paris, unemployed people in Madrid. Everyone got a percentage. But most didn't even realize they were involved in laundering stolen money. In the summer of 2020, my monthly income reached $8,000, $10,000. I rented a normal flat in the center, bought myself a MacBook Pro, paid for my mother's surgery and rehabilitation in a private clinic. But most importantly, I realized how the modern carding machine works. This is not the romance of lone hackers, but a real business with a clear division of labor. The curator bought bases from other groups or ordered hacks into specific banks. The technician provided the technical side, bypassing defenses, phishing sites, fake documents to registered dropships. The logistician coordinated couriers around the world, and programmers like me automated the process to industrial scale. By the autumn of 2020, we had 12 programmers in our group. Each one handled a different sector. Someone specialized in Germany, someone in France, someone in the Scandinavian countries. A technician created a whole infrastructure. Proxy servers in 20 countries, virtual machine farms, automatic IP change systems. In December 2020, the curator showed me the year-end report. The total turnover of the group was 8.3 million euros. Net profit after all expenses for dropships, technical infrastructure, and base purchases was 6.7 million. My cut, $127,000 for 8 months of work. But then I realized that this was only the beginning. The curator talked about plans for 2021, the transition to corporate cards, the automation of phishing through AI, and the creation of our own network of botnets for data collection. Next year, we plan to fully enter the American market, he told me on New Year's Eve. There's a whole different kind of money there. When I saw the real numbers of the US market, I realized we're in a whole different league. $47 million. That's the turnover our group's US operations showed for the 2021 year. By comparison, the entire European segment generated 8.3 million in the same period. The American market was 5 times more profitable. The difference was not only in scale, but also in approach. In Europe, we worked with ordinary consumer cards, limits of 5,000 euros, goods for the mass market. In the USA, the curator focused on the corporate segment. On the 15th of January 2021, he showed me a new database. 800 corporate cards of American companies with limits ranging from 50 to 500,000 quid. One purchase can get you more than a month's work in Europe, he explained. But the technical complexity grew by multiples. Corporate cards had multi-stage protection, SMS confirmations to CFOs' e-phones, email notifications to corporate mail, additional checks for purchases over $10,000. The group's technician developed a system of circumvention through phishing attacks. We created fake letters from banks asking people to confirm their card information to update the security system. People entered their own data on our lookalike sites. But the real breakthrough came in May 2021, when a technician began using neural networks to generate phishing emails. The AI analyzed the correspondence style of specific banks and created emails that were almost impossible to distinguish from real ones. My task became more complex. Now it was not just to automate purchases, but to create full-fledged systems for working with corporate payments, simulating the behavior of company employees, buying B2B goods, working with suppliers of hardware and software. First major transaction, the 23rd of June 2021. Bought $180,000 worth of IBM server hardware from a Seattle tech company's corporate card. The servers were sent to a fictitious company in Miami, from where the drop resold them to South America. My share, $9,000, 2% of the deal. By the end of 2021, I was processing corporate purchases of up to 300,000 quid at a time. Apple tech for startups, servers for IT companies, medical equipment for clinics. The geography of dropshipping expanded: Los Angeles, New York, Chicago, Houston, Miami. But the larger the amounts became, the more I started to get annoyed with the share distribution. The supervisor took 60% of each operation. The technician got 20%. The logistician got 15%. I got 5%, although it was my scripts that ensured 80% of successful purchases. You get a percentage of turnover, not risk-taking, the curator explained when I raised the issue of renegotiating the share. But I was the one taking the risks. My servers, my scripts, my IP, and the shop logs. If the operation had failed, I'd have been the first to be found out. In December 2021, my income was 67,000 quid. That sounds good, but it was only 2.8% of the group's total profit of 2.4 million for the month. The final straw was the operation on the 8th of February 2022. Corporate card for a Boston-based pharmaceutical company. $750,000 limit. Ordered 420 grand worth of medical equipment for a hospital in Texas. The surgery went perfectly. Total group profit, 357,000 quid after deducting resale value. Handler's share, 214,200. My share, $17,850. I created the entire technical scheme of the operation. My script bypassed the 3 layers of corporate card security. I coordinated with the drop in Texas, and I got less than 5%. On the 14th of March 2022, I wrote to the curator, I want to renegotiate the terms of cooperation. I want 20% on transactions. The answer came an hour later. The terms remain the same. If you don't like it, you can leave. On the morning of the 15th of March 2022, I sent my curator one last message and started a whole new game. First solo order, iPhone 13 Pro Max for 1,200 quid from an American card. Delivery to Russia by regular post. On the 18th of March 2022, the parcel arrived, and 2 days later I sold the phone for 85,000 rubles. Net profit, $1,050. For one order, I earned as much as I used to get from 10 operations in the group. I worked cautiously for the first few months. I was testing a scheme for delivering goods directly to Russia. It turned out that the majority of American online retailers can safely send orders to Russia. The main thing is to use cards from the same region as your IP address when ordering. By the summer of 2022, I'd worked out a clear scheme. I bought American and European cards with balances from $5,000 to $50,000. He ordered Apple and Samsung equipment, game consoles, expensive watches, jewelry. Everything was delivered to Russia to addresses of fake persons. But the main discovery happened in June. I realized that the Russian market is much more profitable than the European or American markets. Some goods in Russia cost 1.5 to 2 times as much as in the USA. An iPhone for $1,000 easily sells for 90,000 rubles. A MacBook Pro for 2,500 quid goes for 250,000. Plus, there are no intermediate dropshippers who take their percentage. In July 2022, he earned 43,000 bakos. In August, 61,000, September, 78. But some goods were not marketable in Russia. Specific medical equipment, professional equipment for recording studios, rare collector's items. For such orders, we had to organize a small network of dropshippers. I found one person in Berlin, a student from Ukraine, who agreed to receive parcels for 200 euros each. In the USA, I hooked up a guy from Los Angeles, an immigrant from Mexico, who worked for 300 quid a parcel. The scheme became universal. Mass equipment was ordered to Russia, specific goods. through a European or American dropship with subsequent resale on international sites. In October 2022, there was a qualitative leap. I started using neural networks not only for phishing, but also for market analysis. The AI was trained to analyze the prices of goods in different countries and automatically find the most profitable positions for resale. The algorithm scanned American shops, compared prices with Russian marketplaces, and produced a list of goods with the maximum margin. The result exceeded expectations. The AI found goods with a price difference of up to 300%. A projector for $3,000 in the USA was sold in Russia for 350,000 rubles. A professional mixing console for 8,000 quid in Russia for 900,000 rubles. By the end of 2022, I was processing up to 30 orders a day fully automatically. My scripts themselves found favorable goods, ordered them from stolen cards, tracked delivery, and even placed sale ads on Russian marketplaces. December 2022, $127,000 in revenue. In 1 month, I earned as much as I had earned in the group for a whole year. 2023 was the peak year. I fully automated the process and expanded the geography. I added Canadian and Australian cards, where banks are even slower to react to suspicious transactions. I started working with the luxury segment, Rolex watches, Hermes bags, diamond jewelry. Jewelry gave the highest margins. A Tiffany ring for $15,000 could easily be sold in Moscow for $1.5 million rubles. A Patek Philippe watch for 8,000 quid went for 10 million. In March 2023, for the first time in a month, it exceeded 300,000. In June, already 380,000. In September, he set a personal record, 447,000 quid. But technology didn't stand still either. By mid-2023, banks began to massively implement AI systems for fraud detection. We had to constantly improve the methods of circumvention. Developed a system of warm purchases. At first, small legitimate purchases were made from a stolen card over a 2-3 week period. Coffee at Starbucks, groceries at the supermarket, Netflix subscriptions. Bank algorithms got used to the activity and the card became trusted. Only then was a large order placed. The system worked perfectly. In 2024, he started using deepfake technologies to bypass video verification. Some banks required confirmation of large purchases via video call. My algorithms generated a video of the cardholder's face, synthesized from a photo from social networks. The peak was the operation on the 14th of August 2024. A collection of Patek Philippe watches from a private gallery in New York. 12 pieces totaling $1.2 million. All paid for from the corporate card of the art fund, sold in Russia for 140 million rubles. My profit, 980,000, almost $1 million per transaction. By the end of 2024, the total amount passed through my schemes was 4.2 million. Net profit of 3.7 million quid. I bought a flat, a house, invested in cryptocurrency and property in Dubai. I was officially a sole proprietor engaged in IT consulting. In November 2024, I decided to quit. I had saved enough to live the rest of my life without working. Banks were getting smarter and the risks were growing. But most importantly, I was tired of what was going on around me. In May 2024, one message on Telegram turned the whole... Over the last few months, I've been stumbling across YouTube videos and films about hackers more and more often. Top 10 richest Carters, how to make millions. Millions of views, thousands of comments from guys who dream of becoming cool hackers in black hoodies. It's the same picture everywhere. The romance of the hacker movement, the fight against the system, the redistribution of wealth. They show tough guys in hoodies who supposedly earn 10 million a year and live in the Maldives. And it's really starting to piss me off because I know how things really work. In 4 years in this field, I've seen enough to know that there is no romance there. Only dirt, greed, and betrayal. You want the truth? Here it is. You remember my sponsor? The one who took 60% of the surgeries? In August 2022, I found out he screwed a group tech out of $180,000. He just didn't pay his share of a major operation and blocked him from all messengers. The technician worked with him for 3 years, developing systems to bypass the defenses, risking his freedom. But when the time came to divide the big money, nobody needed him. 6 months later, the same technician was screwed by another group. this time for 240 grand. In 2023, I worked with a group that specialized in pensioners' cards. They bought databases with card data of people over 70 and updated their pensions. Average amount stolen, 800 to 2,000. Pennies for us, last money for them. When I asked the curator if he felt sorry for the old people, he said, "They're going to die soon anyway, and we need the money now." Over 200 dropsies in different countries have gone through my schemes. Do you know how many of them got out of trouble with the law? 0. Everyone was caught sooner or later. Students received suspended sentences and deportation. Immigrants went to jail for 2-3 years. Drug addicts who were used as couriers got full sentences because they could not hire proper lawyers. And we found new ones. There were always desperate people willing to do anything for a quick buck. 90% of carders don't know how to program. They buy ready-made scripts on forums, use other people's tools, and work according to schemes they have been sold. There are only a few real technicians. The rest are common scammers who have learned to use ready-made tools. No fighting the system, just stealing. In 4 years, I made $3.7 million. I bought property, cars, invested in cryptocurrency. But every day lived in fear. Every doorbell could be the police. Every message was a threat from competitors or ditched partners. He had no friends. You don't make friends in this field, you only use them. I hid my family from everyone. My mother still thinks I made my money from IT consulting. By 2024, I realized I had enough. I had accumulated enough to live in peace. But you can't just disappear. Know too much about too many people. Have seen those who tried to leave get offers that can't be refused. One guy who decided to quit in 2023 was found beaten up in the entrance a month after quitting. They broke both arms and said, "If you want to talk to the police, we'll find you anywhere." So I left quietly. I gradually minimized operations, transferred money to safe assets, and prepared for complete disappearance. Last transaction, the 12th of November, 2024. Bought a batch of iPhone 16 Pro for 47K, sold it in Russia for 4.2 million rubles. Never touched another stolen card again. But why am I telling you all this? Not out of a desire to save or re-educate anyone. I'm just sick of films and commercials about cool hackers in black hoodies. Carding is not romantic. It is a dirty business, where people screw each other for pennies, use the desperate as expendable material, and steal the last money from pensioners. In general, I believe that carding is close to the drug business in its essence. Do you want to become rich? Learn programming, create startups, trade on the stock exchange? Any legal way of earning money is better than living in constant fear and being surrounded by such people. And if you do decide to get into carding after my story, do not say later that you were not warned. I found this story on one of the closed forums on the Darknet 5 months ago. The post was published by user PY23 in March 2025 and gained over 500 comments. Most commentators confirmed the details described in the story. The technical aspects of using AI and carding and schemes for working with the Russian market were particularly actively discussed. That confirms the fact that all described technologies exist and are actively used. Amounts and scales of transactions correspond to the data from open sources on modern carding. What was particularly striking was the complete lack of romance in the story. No fighters against the system or digital Robin Hoods, only cold calculation, greed, and betrayal. The story of PY23 shows the real underside of what films and commercials present as cool hacker romance. Behind the pretty picture lies ordinary crime, where people screw each other over for money, and the weakest people pay for everything. The work with pensioners and the use of desperate people as drop-ins is particularly cynical. All these partners and colleagues sooner or later end up behind bars, while the organizers remain in the shadows. I don't know where PY23 is now, and whether he watches my channel, but his story is the best warning for those who are thinking about easy money on the Darknet. Reality always turns out to be dirtier than the beautiful stories from the internet. I would also like to remind you that all the actions described in the story are offenses under the criminal laws of most countries in the world. Carding, bank card fraud, money laundering, and the use of front men entail serious criminal liability, from heavy fines to imprisonment for up to 10 years. As the author of the channel, I categorically do not recommend anyone to engage in such activities and insist that it is unacceptable. Sooner or later, any criminal scheme leads to dire consequences: arrest, imprisonment, and ruined lives. This story is published for educational purposes only, to show the real risks and consequences of criminal activity on the internet. Remember, no amount of money is worth lost freedom and a ruined future. If this story made you think, give it a like and subscribe to the channel. There are many more stories from the dark corners of the internet ahead, which will show you the world unvarnished. In the meantime, take care and remember, fast money always costs too much.